Thank you, Madam President, distinguished ministers, council members. I come here today as the foreign minister of the Jewish state in our ancestral homeland, the land of Israel. First, let me say it was quite amusing to hear the representatives of the Russian Federation speak about the law and international law, about occupation, land expansion, and peaceful resolution. I must admit, I had to restrain myself from laughing out loud. Ladies and gentlemen, around 4,000 years ago, our patriarch Abraham lived and walked in ancient Hebron, Beersheba, and Beit El. Over 3,000 years ago, King David established Jerusalem as our capital. Jewish presence in the land of Israel, even throughout our long exile, has never ceased for even a day. In the history of nations and states, this is probably the clearest case of proven and documented historic rights of any nation to any land. Amazingly, there are so many powers trying to replace historical truth with modern lies. The truth is simple. We are the indigenous people in the land of Israel. The archaeological findings in our ancient sites, including the city of David, the Western Wall tunnels, and others, tell the history of our land. This jug handle is from the kingdom of Judea, 2,700 years ago. It has a stamp of the Jewish king on it. This coin, this little coin, from nearly 2,000 years ago, says freedom for Zion. Found in the Judean desert, it was minted during the second year of the great Jewish revolt against the Romans. How can Jewish presence in our ancient homeland violate international law? It's a contradiction in terms. Madam Secretary, in 1917, the British government issued the historic Balfour Declaration in order to re-establish a national home for the Jewish people in our land. The same places in the heart of our ancient homeland you claim the Jews are forbidden to live in, and that allegedly violate international law, you recognized as belonging to national home for the Jewish people. I want to present a map of the British mandate, but I'll first make a disclaimer for the Jordanian foreign minister I know is about to come. We have no claim over Transjordan. I want it to be clear. But this is the map of the Balfour Declaration of the British Mandate. Here is Judea and Samaria. Some of you call it the West Bank. In 1921, then Secretary of State for the Colonies, Winston Churchill, said on a visit to the land of Israel, "It is manifestly right that the Jews should have a national home. And where else could that be but in this land with which for more than 3,000 years they have been intimately and profoundly associated?" In 1922, the UN's predecessor, the League of Nations Council, tasked Britain with re-establishing a Jewish national home. Madam President, what have you left of the lofty historical tradition of Balfour and Churchill? The claims in this discussion, as one of many, are yet another example of the hypocritical obsession with Jewish presence in the heart of our tiny land. The claim that Israelis cannot live in Judea and Samaria isn't just inconsistent with international law and Britain's own Balfour Declaration. It is morally distorted. How can Jews be allowed to live in London, Paris, or New York, but not in the cradle of our own civilization, ancient Jerusalem, which you call East Jerusalem, Shiloh, Hebron, and Beit El? Madam President, it is our country. It is not 13,000 kilometers from our country, like the Falkland Islands. The Argentinian calls it the Malvinas Islands. A dispute you hadn't solved with Argentina until today. Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump's 2020 deal of the century made it clear our communities in Judea and Samaria will remain intact in any permanent agreement. There will be peace one day. It won't be achieved by removing people from their homes, Jews or Arabs. Neither of them. The idea that Jewish communities are an obstacle to peace is outrageous. It's disconnected from the current and past reality in Judea and Samaria. With all due respect, we will not abandon our heritage, security, and future to ease other countries' domestic political difficulties. Israel signed the Oslo Accords and received a murderous intifada of suicide attacks. Israel unilaterally withdrew from Gaza in 2005. We dismantled our communities, our army bases, and even our cemeteries. We received the world's largest terror state in Gaza and the October 7th massacre. When will you get it? We will not risk our own existence. Distinguished members, the Palestinian Authority formed based on the Oslo Accords is grossly violating these agreements upon which it was founded. The PA committed to fighting terror and incitement, yet you won't find terrorists in those jails. Additionally, the Palestinian Authority legislated a distorted pay-for-slay policy providing salaries to terrorists and their families. How come none of you said anything about it? Anyone? The United States State Department reported to Congress that the PA committed to paying over $200 million in salaries to terrorists in 2025 alone, significantly more than 2024. A few weeks ago, Abbas dismissed his finance minister to shift the blame for pay-for-slay on him. But the new finance minister admitted a week ago that pay-for-slay will continue despite their financial difficulties. But you don't say a word about it, do you? The Palestinian Authority continues to incite against Jews and Israel in textbooks, schools, kindergartens, mosques, and media. This map from the Palestinian elementary school in Hebron displays skulls on top of Jewish community. Skulls. What's the message for the children? This is the fate they intend for the Jews. The Palestinian Authority, just like Hamas, is brainwashing the minds of the next generation to hate Jews. Under the Palestinian Authority, there is a systematic destruction of holy and archaeological sites. The Palestinians use tractors to damage the biblical site of Mount Abel. You probably know from the Bible. Systematically destruction. Not a word about it. But this is the history of this land. They are destroying. Palestinians are diverting water and committing environmental offenses to harm citizens, to harm our citizens. And you can see it here. Burning of waste in Palestinian areas deliberately pollutes the air and harms the health of residents in nearby Israeli cities. This body claims to champion environmental protection. Where are your voices? Nearly 300 structures were built per month only in 2025 by Palestinians in Area C. Massive illegal building. It's blatant violation of our agreements. Yet you aren't saying a word about it. The condemnations are reserved solely for building intended for Jewish communities. How many of you condemned the PA's racist death penalty for anyone who sells real estate to Jews? Do you believe it exists in 2026, death penalty for selling real estate for Jews? Jordanian law, which applies to what you call the West Bank, forbids the sale of real estate to any non-Arabs, Jews or non-Jews, American, Chinese, Russian. How many of you that condemned Israel's cabinet decision last week to cancel it really believe that a racist law like this should exist in 2026? What choice did we have other than correcting these twisted injustices? By establishing equality and transparency in real estate transactions in Judea and Samaria. Is this annexation? Our cabinet decision also protects the property rights of Israelis and Palestinians alike. Dear members, the international community turns a blind eye to the PA's ongoing practices and violations. This only pushes a solution to the conflict further away. You invented a so-called state of Palestine as if such a state exists or ever existed. But the truth, for over 3,000 years since King David, Jerusalem has been the Jewish people's eternal capital, and it will remain so forever. West Jerusalem is Jerusalem, one Jerusalem under Israel's sovereignty. If you wondered where the name Palestine was born, it was the same Hadrian. He renamed the land of Israel Syria Palestina to try and erase the Jewish connection to our land. But during Ottoman rule and through the British Mandate, Jews were forbidden from entering the tomb of the patriarchs in our ancient city of Hebron. Our ancestors were restricted to praying at the seventh step on the outside staircase. In Yemen today, Christians are banned from practicing their faith openly. The Iranian regime considers home churches a national security threat. Not a word about these countries. Israel is the only power standing against huge forces of barbarism, terror, and extremism. Distinguished members, tomorrow I'll have the honor to representing Israel at President Trump's Board of Peace Summit in Washington, D.C. We support President Trump's plan for Gaza. At the heart of the plan is the disarmament of Hamas, demilitarization of Gaza Strip, and de-radicalization of Palestinian society there. This is why it's the first comprehensive plan deals with the root problems. Hamas is solely responsible for the humanitarian situation you all described, for the suffering of Israelis and Palestinians alike. Yet members of this council attack Israel obsessively with no connection to reality. Even when, as the American ambassador had said, more than 4,200 trucks per week enter Gaza. Statements must be connected to reality and to what shapes it. I want you to honestly ask yourselves, what's more impactful, this UN meeting or tomorrow's summit? Have you asked yourselves why everyone is focused on tomorrow's DC summit and not this meeting? It's time to speak the truth. The Palestinians are at the forefront of radical Islam's war to eliminate Israel. It hadn't changed. And make no mistake, the West is next. It's time to stop with the one-sided, unbalanced approach. I call on the UN to wake up before it loses its remaining importance, influence, and status. I thank you.